Hello. How is everyone doing tonight? All right, we having fun? Are we having fun? All right, so before I even get started, I just have to tell a funny story that's happened to me this evening. So the individual that's supposed to keep Adam in line, make sure he is where he is supposed to be, the one that's supposed to make sure he's got his food and he's eating and he's drinking, I have broken a shoe. I have lost an earring back. You know, it's just one of those nights. So just like we did here, I have chosen to make lemonade out of these lemons that have been given to me, went and got a different pair of shoes, and took off the earrings. Isn't that what we do, right? We make lemonade out of lemons. That is what we do as JCI members. All right, well, so someone once said, there's no such thing as having enough time. Not having enough time. Let me rephrase that. There is only what you make as a priority. So let me repeat that. There is no such thing as not having enough time. Do you ever hear people say, oh, I don't have enough time. I'm busy. I can't do this. I can't get it all done. There's only what you make as a priority. So let's talk about those priorities, obligations, and choices. We all have them. So sometimes we feel an obligation to do things, while other times we prioritize specific activities and events. And still other times we make a choice to do one thing over another. So I'm gonna tell you another little story. I made a choice tonight. I made a choice to be here with each and every one of you. And I promise there was something else on the table tonight. And I mean, those that know me know what I'm talking about. So instead, though, I followed my favorite lyric. Turns out not where, but who you're with that really matters. And if you know, you know. There's never enough time to do everything we want to do. The key is to not prioritize what's on our schedule, but rather schedule our priorities. If it's not a priority, you're not going to work for it, and you may never have it. Your life right now represents all the things you've made a priority. And if you're like most, you've probably only made survival a priority. Getting by, paying the bills, doing the minimum. So what I'd like to do is I'd like us to choose not to live that way. I want us to choose to do more. Let's choose to be more. Constantly showing up is one of our obligations. Even when things are difficult, we must continue to show up. It's not a responsibility to have everything figured out. We don't have to have it all figured out, do we? No? Okay, cool. But it is our obligation to show up. We need to show up. We need to go and be those individuals. To those that could have said no but didn't, and to those who say yes in the face of adversity every day, every time, we thank you. Continue staying true to those obligations. Continue saying yes. In the end, it all boils down to our choices. Okay, we talked about that earlier, our choices. So in the end, it all boils down to those choices. One fact of life we all need to acknowledge is this. Regardless of your initial circumstances, we define our lives through the choices we make. So choose wisely. JCI Michigan, it is my honor to bring to the stage an individual who has chosen to prioritize our members and this organization throughout all of 2021. He is not afraid to show up. He is not afraid to create positive change, and he's not afraid to build bridges. Ladies and gentlemen, your 97th President, Adam Bonarek.
Thank you so much, Tara, for those wonderful words tonight. So, we have reached that point in the evening where it is my responsibility to come up with some words of wisdom. What is the message? What are the final words that I wish to leave for all of you while I still hold the title of being your current president, as the 97th president of JCI Michigan? And with that in mind, there are three things I want to talk about tonight. Three things that have been really weighing on my mind over the past couple of weeks as I really think again about this message that I want to deliver tonight. The first thing that has been on my mind is our own mortality. Yes, I said that. Our own mortality. That is something that I really have found myself thinking about a lot lately. Maybe it's because I'm Catholic and this week was All Souls. Maybe it's because 13 years ago, right around this time, we lost a dear friend in Mr. Bob Peacock. Maybe it's because we just recently lost the president of the Grand Rapids chapter, Sarah Fales. Maybe it's because of loss that has hit my family recently. Or maybe it's just because I've turned 40 and it has given me a reason to reflect back on what has happened over the first 4 decades of my life and where do I envision myself moving forward and what do I think about where I am today. So that's item number one. The second thing that I want to talk to you tonight is transitions. I've always known that transitions would be a focus for my speech tonight. In fact, that's one of the things I knew going all the way back to my campaign, which seems like an eternity ago, back in that year we don't talk about, back in the summer of 2020. But I knew then that one of the things that was so important to me when I talked about the fact that one of our obligations as a state organization was to motivate, inspire, and connect our members and chapters together, that one of the best ways we have to do that is through our state events. And that meant that we had to rethink how we looked at our state events. And so I knew from the beginning that this event would really be focused on 2022. Because one of the things that this organization has done so poorly in the past, and you've even heard President-elect Margot, don't tell Heather I said that, please. It's even one of the things that President-elect Margot has hit on a couple of times today, which is the fact that we don't do transitions well in this organization. We too often spend the first 6 months of the year trying to figure out where the obstacles and the barriers are, where are the resources, what did they do last year, and we end up wasting such a significant portion of the year that by the time we finally get the engines revved up, we're already prepared to talk about the next year. We can't afford to do that anymore. We have to remember that time is just one long continuum, right? And each of us in our 1 year to lead, we are in these positions for 1 year. But there is someone who came before us, and there is someone that is going to come after us. And we are given to only be stewards for this 1 year to lead. That's why we make such a big deal about the legacy of leadership. That's why we bring all the past state presidents back up on stage. That's why we talk about that legacy, and we talk about what are each of us doing today to make sure that tomorrow is better than today? What are we doing to make sure that we leave this organization stronger than we found it? Am I right? But you know, that's really true for all of us as individuals too. No matter what your title, no matter what your role, whether it's in JCI, whether it's in your family, as an individual, in your workplace, wherever that is, what are you doing each and every day to look at the opportunities that are before you? What are you doing to make sure that, again, thinking about that mortality of our life, that we don't know how much longer we're going to have here? We don't know whether or not, if we passed up the opportunity that is in front of us today, is that opportunity going to be there tomorrow? And even if it is there tomorrow, are we going to be able to recognize it? We, each and every one of us, have that responsibility as young people, as people on this journey of life, to make sure that we are reflecting back on what can we do to make sure that we continue to evolve and grow, because that is what we do as people on the planet Earth. Finally, of course, I can't end the evening without talking a bit about bridges. And so I have to come back and look at my notes, only because I'm going to mess up the facts. Hi, Isabel. Bye, Isabel. You know, all year I have shared stories about bridges. It's okay. It's all good. That's one of those things that, I think children remind us, right, of that time that we had in the past, right? And where are we going moving forward? But anyway, going back to bridges. So people know that I love bridges. And what are bridges really? Bridges are a way for us to overcome barriers. They are a way for us to overcome the obstacles that are in front of us. I mean, if you think about it, that's why bridges were originally built, right? Let's ford this stream. Let's build a bridge over the river. How are we going to get from place A to place B? We need a bridge. But how else can we think about bridges? How many of you have ever heard the name Jim Ryan? We got one. We got two. I got three, one over there. Jim Ryan, in 1965, he became the first high school runner to break the 4-minute mile. He was 17 years old, and he ran the mile in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. The very next year, as a high school senior, he broke his own record and ran it in 3 minutes and 53 seconds. Let's think about that for a minute. How many of you, in the best shape of your life, how many of you think that you could have run all the way around that track one time in 60 seconds or less? And even if you could do it in 60 seconds or less, could you do it 3 more times without stopping? I know I couldn't, right? In fact, very few people have been able to do that. Jim Ryan's record stood for 36 years before it was broken, and since 1965, there have only been 5 high schoolers ever to break the 4-minute mile. So why do I bring this up? I bring this up because that was a barrier. Before Jim Ryan broke that barrier, it was a hypothetical. We didn't know whether or not somebody could actually do that. We knew that older people could. There was a graduate student that had broken that record, but not somebody that was in high school. But by him breaking that barrier, he turned it into a bridge, and he turned it into a bridge to greatness. And that is the question that I think is in front of all of us. We see those opportunities in so many ways. Whether we're talking about Jim Ryan or Neil Armstrong, or Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, or Jackie Robinson, or Henry Giesenbier. These are people who found a way to overcome the barriers that were in front of them and turn them into a bridge to greatness. So why do I bring this up? I bring this up because every one of us faces barriers every day. And the biggest challenge for each and every one of us is how do we turn these barriers into our own bridge to greatness? JCI Michigan, we have 55 days left in 2021. And we have a lot of barriers in front of us, right? We are still coming out of a pandemic. Every single one of our chapters is struggling in their own way. Our membership is down. These are barriers that are in front of us today. But let me tell you something. I think that we, each and every one of us, have the ability to overcome these barriers. And I am not ready to say we are done. Are you ready to say we're done? No, because we are not done. Each and every one of us, by simply being here this weekend, has said that I recognize the fact that this is an organization where I want to spend my time, talent, and resources. This is an organization that can help me become the best version of myself. I said this morning that this world needs us, and I mean that wholeheartedly. They need people like us. They need people from all walks of life who are ready to come together to bridge those barriers and turn them into bridges to greatness. I know that myself and President-elect Carol and all of our past leadership and everybody in this room has the potential and the ability to turn every barrier in front of us into a bridge. because the biggest barrier is ourselves, and each and every one of us has the opportunity to turn that barrier into a bridge. JCI Michigan, I can't thank you enough for the privilege and the honor of serving as your 97th president. But as we conclude this evening, though of course I do have one more of those medallions, but as we conclude this evening, I just want to remind each and every one of us that today or never, it is time for us to rise up and to continue building those bridges into the future. 55 days.